It seems like whenever he's uncomfortable about anything, this far-right phrase is bandied out. I'm supportive of a statutory inquiry. I think that it's very important that determines accountability. I think there have been blatant institutional failures when it comes to various grooming gang cases across the country. And I also think this is an opportunity for the victims to be heard, victims who've been denied protection and justice. And you would think that protecting the most vulnerable in society, vulnerable working class girls, this would be natural territory for the left. This is not a moral panic. This is not a far right cause. And I think that the Prime Minister is a bit reckless there. And I think there's actually an opportunity to have a proper statutory inquiry, which really understands the complex dynamics at play, determines accountability, because it's clear as day that they're public officials, whether they're politicians, people who are highly ranked in police forces, social workers, safeguarding teams, even teachers who turned a blind eye, and they have to be held accountable.
Do you think one of the problems here, Rakib, is that for a long time, it basically only was the far right talking about this, and that sort of made everyone very, very uncomfortable. It sort of associated the scandal with the kind of people who go out and look for fights on the streets and sort of engage in football hooliganism. And that made a lot of people who should ordinarily think this is an absolutely disgraceful scandal that needs looking into more, exposing and pursuing, it made people think, oh, this is a right-wing conspiracy theory.
Tom, I'll push back slightly there. I'm sure you know Anne Cryer, who's the former Labour MP for Keighley. She raised the problem, the scourge of grooming gangs, predominantly Pakistani heritage adult males, targeting, abusing, exploiting white British working class girls as far back as 2003.
Yeah,
that was well before the English Defence League was even created following the Butchers of Basra demonstrations in my hometown of Luton. So I think the real problem here is that we've had figures on the left who have flagged this problem decades ago. I think that what I will say is that much of the response to that was scandalous. They were treated with contempt, even by fellow members of the left, so-called community leaders, and that there have been local police. I think the big story here is that class was a very powerful dynamic here. I think that what we have is a classist multicultural state, and many of these scandals are ultimately the product of a dangerous fusion of old and new, that traditional classism being blended with modern sensitivities on race. And I think that what we've seen here is that many white British working class girls, even though we do have grooming gang victims who belong to a variety of ethnic and religious communities, and I think that's often overlooked, but white British working class girls under that classist multicultural state have been severely let down.
Well, thank you very much indeed.